Hello, my dear friends. My name is Igor Pogodin, and today we're going to talk about a very important topic: what to do when you're in a lot of pain. Surely you've encountered situations in life where you felt pain because you weren't understood. Pain from betrayal, pain from loss, pain when your core values are violated, and it became an abyss of suffering. But the pain itself felt like something that invaded your life, destroying everything to its very foundation and to ashes. As if pain exists solely to ruin everything in your life. But that's not the case. In reality, pain is there to help us, to keep us alive in the most difficult situations in life. We'll talk about how to do that in this video. Stay until the end, and I hope you'll find answers to many of your questions. So, you're probably familiar with situations in life when everything goes wrong, when someone brazenly violates your boundaries, or when someone takes away something that was very important to you, your job, your mission, the value of friendship, the value of relationships. Suddenly, after, say, 17 years of marriage, you find out that your husband is cheating on you. Or, for example, when a girl comes to you and says, "Listen, I think I love someone else, your friend, and I'm leaving." Or you're simply going through a divorce or breakup, or someone close to you passes away. And of course, the first feeling that arises is intense pain. And then that pain immediately turns into a sadist. I don't know anyone who would willingly want to experience and endure pain right away. We all want it to go away. And that's why the natural desire of anyone who encounters pain is for it not to exist. And so if you look at the top Google searches, most likely when it comes to pain, they sound like this: how do I make the pain stop? Or how do I get rid of pain? Or how do I reduce pain? Or how do I suppress pain? Or how do I make the pain disappear? Or something along those lines. And all these questions are very understandable, but also dangerous. I'll explain what I mean by the term dangerous. Pain arises as a natural reaction. For example, when you drop something on your foot or your toe, you feel pain. Pain is adaptive. It tells you that something has either invaded your life or that some event has torn something out of your life. And that's why pain serves a very important signaling function. After some time, the pain begins to subside. At first, so that you don't feel too much pain, you might even experience shock. This happens with both physical pain and psychological pain, especially if it's the loss of loved ones. People first experience shock. Or, for example, news about, a possible divorce or infidelity can also cause you to feel shock. And only after some time can you actually feel the pain. And then you start, as it seems to you, to naturally deal with this pain by fighting it. You want it to end as quickly as possible. Even if you watch some videos, including mine, you even use presents or other tools in order to make the pain disappear. But that's not how it works. Pain is necessary for us so that it can help us deal with the existential catastrophe that may be happening in our lives right now. Where does pain arise, friends? Pain arises in the place where, first, the boundary of contact is abruptly and treacherously violated. Pain arises in situations of violence, for example, when someone abruptly violates your boundaries, and you can't do anything to restore them. If you can, anger will arise in you. Or, for example, the boundary of contact suffers because it is torn apart. You became attached to someone, and that person disappears from your life, leaves, betrays you, or you simply part ways because the person moves to another country, for instance, and it feels as if something is being torn away from you. And the second meaning of pain is this: pain always appears in the place where there is a loss or a threat of losing something valuable. For example, something you believed in suddenly disappears and pain arises. This could be the value of friendship, the value of your faith, or perhaps some other value, like your grandmother's ring, for instance. It symbolized an entire era that you associated with your grandmother, and now it's gone. You understand, right? And everywhere you will feel pain. In other words, pain tells you where some healing work is needed right now. Pain calls for comfort. But this isn't obvious to you at the moment, so you start to fight. And even if you go to psychotherapy, you start using psychotherapy as a tool to fight the pain, and therefore to fight yourself, because pain is your ally, it's on your side. To prevent this from happening, it probably makes sense to trust, the professionals. Here in the description, you can follow the link, submit your application, and we will recommend either an individual therapist who is ready to work with this, or a group that will be helpful for you to navigate and handle the processes you're currently experiencing as deeply and effectively as possible. so that you move toward light and happiness, rather than continuing to poison yourself with one feeling or another. So what is the alternative? We have already understood why pain is needed and what to do with it. We don't know that yet? So far in this video, we haven't gotten to that point yet. So pain requires comfort. If you are experiencing pain, it means one thing. Your job right now is to be in pain. This may sound strange, but it really is true. When we talk about grief in psychotherapy, there is even a special phrase, the work of pain, the work of grief. So it turns out that pain and grief have a job to do. In other words, grief is not a state that is unbearable for you, but a process, and it is a healthy one. It is a process that helps you heal from this catastrophic event in your life associated with loss. And so your job right now is to grieve. What does that mean? Instead of running away from your pain, instead of trying to fight it, find someone you trust. Find someone whom you know has a big open heart. It's great if, based on your experience, you already know that this person won't rush to rescue you. You know, there are some people close to you who can't bear your pain and will rush to save you with advice or comfort, some of which actually devalues the situation you're in. They do this with the best intentions, out of the kindness of their hearts, but it doesn't help you. On the contrary, it only makes things worse. It's important not for someone to save you from your pain, but for someone to be able to be present with you, face to face when you're hurting. This is called sharing your pain. To share doesn't mean to split it in half, and now the other person will become its bearer. No, that's not how it works. The other person won't catch this pain for you, but together with you they can create a space. Sometimes I call it presence, where this pain begins to come alive. When you look into another person's eyes, open your heart and say, "It hurts so much," and talk about how the pain lives inside your heart. At that moment, a space filled with presence is created, a space where your pain seems to come alive. Before, it was poisoning you and was like a demonic monster. But now, it begins to come alive. It seems to become lighter. And often this happens at first only occasionally. Suddenly you feel that the pain becomes lighter, as if it gets easier, and then it comes back again. That's normal. Allow this to happen. So again, there's a moment of clarity, then it comes back. Again, a moment of clarity, and it returns. Then the moments of clarity last longer. You notice that in contact with another person, you can stay with the pain, not just for 5 minutes, not 2 minutes, not 1 minute, but for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour. For the entire therapy session. And then you notice that these periods begin to occur even outside the presence of another person, as if you are gaining the ability to relate to the pain differently. You begin to see its light. I call this the process of experiencing. That is the moment when you stop fighting the pain and instead settle into it. It is precisely then, paradoxically, that it stops tormenting you. As long as you fight it, it wins, either by points or by knockout or by points. And you continue to endure this agony of suffering and pain. But only at the moment when you start allowing it to exist, without running away from that place, does something begin to happen within it. Against the backdrop of this pain, other feelings begin to emerge. You start to feel gratitude, for example, that the person you are talking about hasn't run away yet and hasn't tried to save you. You begin to feel warmth toward them. You start to feel a sense of joy that, for the first time, thanks to these different kinds of efforts, not efforts of willpower or struggle, but the effort of surrendering your pain, a breakthrough that is important to you has appeared. You start to feel desires within yourself, desires that as long as the pain was poisoning you, you didn't notice at all. You begin to hear your body, you start to feel your breath, and all of this happens in the background. And this is what I call experiencing. You start to see more. Before, you had tunnel vision, and it was defined only by pain, but now your perspective has widened, and your life is beginning to let in things you had been deprived of all this time. You begin to see that life still shines with bright colors. The pain does not go away. It's normal if, for the rest of our lives, we continue to feel pain from losses such as the loss of loved ones. Of course, if the pain is less strongly connected to something like betrayal, say, by a friend or a coworker, then it's possible that it will eventually go completely unnoticed by you and you'll simply forget about it. But if this pain is directly connected to an existential loss, then of course it will remain even 20 years after the death of loved ones. You will visit them at the cemetery, cry, and feel that pain. But this pain will no longer be corrosive. It will be a bright pain, a pain filled with gratitude, a pain with warmth, a pain, well, even with a certain joy. By the way, this is one of the elements when the experience of pain is restored from the other side, from the therapist's perspective. A certain joy appears. So the client tells me about their pain, and for the first time I begin to feel joy. Joy because for the first time this person, instead of running away from the pain, is telling me about it, as if they are expanding within it. It's as if they are beginning to breathe within it. And that is also normal. And you may also feel joy against the backdrop of the pain you are experiencing. This is a good sign, because it means you are starting to move forward. Pay attention to what happens next, because it is precisely what happens next that will outline the roadmap you should follow. Pain does not have to be eternal. It doesn't have to poison you 24/7 all the time. Afterwards, it will continue to appear from time to time in your life, reminding you that you are a person with your own values, reminding you that you are a person with attachments, reminding you that you once loved someone who is no longer there. Perhaps this pain is even from separating from your husband, and even after 10 years, despite the fact that you chose to leave him yourself, it will still remain as a slight aching feeling inside, reminding you that you had that period in your life too, for which you are grateful and appreciative. And that's perfectly normal too. But in any case, the pain will stop destroying you. This is the most important thing that can happen. To help you get closer to the topic of experiencing emotions, we will leave links to videos in the description. Under this video, we will leave links to videos where I specifically talk about experiencing emotions in a bit more detail. There, you can go through this and get acquainted with it. And now, if you found this video important, give it a like. That way more people will see this video. Subscribe to the channel. This way, you'll always be up to date with all the news and be the first to know when a new video comes out. And if you want to share this video with your friends and acquaintances, do so if you think it might be useful and could really help someone during a difficult time in their life. This was Igor Pogodin with you. Thank you very much. And I'll see you in new videos. Bye.